I started opednews.com. If you Google liberal news, it comes up first. That's because of bottom-up processes. That's the way Google works. More and more sites link to it, and it produces that result in the searches. I found that the more I let my readers and my writers participate in the decision-making processes of op-ed news, the better it got. And I got really interested in it. I had a conversation with Joe Trippi back in 2008 when the primary was happening. Joe was the campaign manager who's generally credited with first using the internet for Howard Dean's campaign. And he was saying that Hillary Clinton had the most powerful top-down campaign in history, recent history. She was being beaten by a bottom-up campaign that Obama had with his website and the grassroots that he was doing. So it really fascinated me. So I started thinking about, what is bottom-up? Bottom-up is the way people related to each other for most of human history and before human history, in tribes, in indigenous culture. We're talking millions of years. Top-down culture began with civilization. Civilization brought us cities and agriculture, but it also brought us control and domination, hierarchy, serfdom, slavery. It had its pluses. Civilization has been a good thing in a lot of ways. And I mean, to suggest that civilization is problematic, I'll probably get accused of being crazy. But civilization has brought its problems, and it has had its symptoms, just like drugs have symptoms, and just like drugs have side effects. And since civilization has existed, there have been kings, and there have been the people who they've tread upon. And now we're in a world where corporations seem to be taking over the role of the feudal society rulers. And there's good news, though. The good news is that we're transitioning from a world that has been heavily top-down to one that's more bottom-up. Why? The internet. The internet is a bottom-up system. The internet is something that gets people to think in bottom-up ways. So let me talk a little bit about the difference. Top-down is centralized, hierarchical, one-to-many, autocratic, low transparency, little cooperation. It's big, it's exclusive, it's Leviathan. Bottom-up is decentralized, it's local, it's horizontal, it's many-to-many instead of one-to-many, which is what top-down is. It's cooperative, it's interdependent, there's equality, there's transparency, it's small, inclusive, cellular, and connected. The internet, it has done some really interesting things to generations of people. And it's changing the way their brain works. So my kids, I have 22, 28, and 31-year-old kids. They grew up with the internet. They grew up text messaging. They grew up instant messaging. My daughter would have 8 different instant messages going at the same time. A lot of connecting all at once. This is a different way of the brain operating. The younger generation has had their brains marinated in the internet, and it's changed everything. So what I'm going to try to do is not just talk to you about bottom-up economics, but a paradigm shift, a cultural shift in literally the way the brain works. And I've talked to a half a dozen neuroscientists and anthropologists, and they all agree the brain is not working the same as it used to. You want to get a good idea of that? Look, watch a movie from the 1920s or 30s, and you see a scene that is 2 to 5 minutes long. Watch a movie now, and scenes, if they're long, they're 5 seconds long, and they're often less than a second long. The attention span is different. The way interaction functions is different, too. There's been a book called The Shallows that's been written that describes how attention is much shallower. The idea of reading an 800-page Russian novel now ain't happening. Not very often. It does, but it's a different way of interacting. And that affects everything. It affects the way we work, the way we communicate with each other. I have a cousin, she's 78. She's angry at her grandchildren because they don't call her. Well, hello. Kids that age don't like to use the phone. They text. This is all part of this bottom-up revolution. But bottom-up is something that Obama talked about. Obama talked about it a lot between November and January when he was waiting to get into power. And he's even talked about it recently, how we need bottom-up approaches. Problem is, he doesn't do them. He did it once. Can anybody think of the time that he did it? Well, he used his campaign, yeah, but he did it in the Cash for Clunkers project. He put up billions of dollars to help the automobile business, but he didn't give the automobile companies billions of dollars unless they cut a deal for $4,000 or $4,500 or whatever it was. And they did that thousands and thousands of times. That was a bottom-up intervention. That's what they should be doing every time they're making these big steps. Now, the thing with top-down approaches is they're easy. I'm going to come up with $10 billion, and I'm going to give it to you. And you'll take care of it. You'll designate it. You'll distribute it. Yeah, we saw how that works. But if you can do a bottom-up approach, and you say, I've got $10 billion, bank number one, and you can have all of it, but you have to attract people who are going to borrow money. And you only get it when you make loans, just like they did with the cars. That's a bottom-up approach. Can you imagine that? Now, there's a big deal about repatriating profits from overseas. A lot of it, all the big companies now are transnational companies. So they want to bring back the profits that they made overseas, and they don't want to be taxed on them, or they want to be taxed a lot lower. Okay. They say, oh, that'll make jobs happen. Okay. Put your money where your mouth is. Do a bottom-up approach. Bring in the money. Tax rate is 35%. You want to pay 15%? Take that 20% and apply it to new jobs. That would be a bottom-up way of letting them have the money. What I'm trying to get you to do is to think about how bottom-up can work. Top-down ideas are insidious. When I say insidious, we're talking nursery stories. Jack and the Beanstalk. Let's talk about Jack and the Beanstalk. Jack is supposed to go to the market, and he makes a trade, and instead he gets magic seeds that produce a beanstalk, and he goes up into the sky. He finds a golden goose, and he steals it from a giant. So he's going up to the top. He's getting magic, and he's taking it, and he's stealing it. Well, what if it was a different story? What if the end of the story was that what he should have done was he should have bought a sack of seeds and planted them and shared them with the whole community, and everybody in the community benefited? That's a kind of story that would be a bottom-up story that could everybody win with. Now, I just did on my radio show an interview with one of the co-authors of the Self-Made Myth book. It's an excellent book. And it's an interesting angle that is being used now, the self-made myth. But what is happening there is there's a multimillionaire who's basically funding Ayn Rand courses and training at colleges. He's offering $2 million to a college if they'll teach, I think it's Atlas Shrugged and Ayn Rand's philosophies, which are totally libertarian, top-down philosophies. This whole idea that one person who's a rugged individual can do it on their own. This is the sales pitch that the right wing is trying to sell keeping the Bush tax breaks with. You tax people making $250,000 or more, and you're taxing the job creators. This is a lie. It's just a flat-out lie. They say people who are making $250,000 or more are small business people, and if you tax them, they're not going to be able to hire people. Well, I'm a small business owner, and I have been for over 30 years. I've had employees, and I don't pay taxes on the pay that I give my employees. If I hire people, then I don't have to pay taxes on profits for the company. Now, I have a regular C corporation, which means that my company pays taxes and then I pay taxes as well. But a lot of people who are small businesses have S corporations, which means their profits flow through. Anything that is left over, they get paid and they keep it. So either way, they're making money. It's a lie. This self-made myth is something that Elizabeth Warren has talked about. The idea that you do it on your own. It's just me doing it. I'm a millionaire and I'm a billionaire, and so I did it, and I should keep it all. Well, it doesn't work that way. It's all bottom up in America. Success in America is bottom up.